Welcome to Love and Relo, the voice of the relocation industry. This is Ben Cross. I'm your host today. I am joined by a wonderful guest from Germany. Always love when we have the folks overseas coming on the program to give us an idea about what it's like being an expat over there and then also being a business owner who caters to expats. Her name is Victoria Messer, and we will meet her soon. Our sponsor here, DN Van. Maybe we'll bring them up here. All right. Our sponsor today, Van Lines.
Hey everyone on Love and Reload. This is Janet. I am going to be reading the ad while Ben fixes his technical difficulties.
Take it away,
So
Janet.
do you want to continue,
No,
Ben?
you got this, girl. You go for
Okay.
it.
Okay. So today's episode of Love and Reload is brought to you by DN Van Lines. DN Van Lines is a full-service moving and storage company with locations in Massachusetts and Florida. To my corporate reload peeps, this is from Odette watching. If you need a good addition to your supply chain in Massachusetts or Florida, give me a call. Odette Carmen, Odette Carmi at 1-800-51-MOVER. That's Odette Carmi at 1-800-51-MOVER. Okay, Ben, it's all yours.
Wonderful, Janet. Thank you so much for saving the day. Thank God for Janet Turner. Okay, everybody, can we just give Janet really quick? If you're watching this and you're still with us right now, just give Janet a little round of applause in the comments, okay? Because she really, I tell you what, sometimes she just saves my life. I'll tell you what. Um, Thank you, Janet. I appreciate you guys hanging in there. We got a bunch of people coming in on LinkedIn. If you're watching on LinkedIn, also I want to see you hit that heart icon as well. I want to talk really quick before I bring on Victoria, the book of the month, and we are going to be doing a book club here on Love and Relo. It's been a while since we did a book. The last book we did was Bob Berg's The Go Giver. This book right here is Lead Like an Ally by Julie Kratz. And Lead Like an Ally, Julie Kratz is an author that was recommended to me. And this book is all about allyship. This book is about how men can be allies to women, also how we can be allies to other people in the workplace as well, make people feel comfortable bringing them whole selves to work, and make our company stronger through having diverse workforces and healthy relationships. So I encourage you, if you're a man, if you're a woman, buy this book, read this book. We will be having a discussion on it on Tuesday, May 26th. So go to Amazon, buy Lead Like an Ally. Let's read it. Let's discuss it. On Monday, May 25th, we will be talking about it with members of Love and Relo. So if you want to be a part of that discussion, message me about it. And then we will also have the author, Julie Kratz, on live to discuss the book on May 26th. So I encourage you all to go out and buy that book. Now, without any further ado, I want to bring our guest, Victoria, who's been waiting so patiently in the background there. Victoria, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Victoria, thank you so much for being patient.
Oh, no, it's fine.
we were getting ready for this show, and the Wi-Fi was going out, and it was out for a while. And Janet and Victoria are talking, and life is good. And then I'm like, all right, we got it rebooted. We're ready to go. We go into it, and like 2 seconds in, boom, it goes out again on me. So, thank you so much for your patience, Victoria.
I'm happy to be here today. Thank you for the invitation. And you don't have to worry at all about a local relocation consultant needing to find something to chat about with someone. That's our job. So
there you go. Yeah. Making people feel comfortable in uncomfortable situations.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah. So Victoria, why don't you tell everybody where in the world you are right now?
So I live in Berlin, which is the capital of Germany, and I live actually in the city district of Wedding, which is an up-and-coming neighborhood. It was actually voted recently on one of those coolest cities in the world, or coolest city districts in the world. Our district, Wedding, actually made it on the list. And it was quite funny because people in Berlin often say that Wedding is dangerous or it's not appropriate for families or expats, but I'm a big Wedding fan, and I think anyone who moves to Berlin can also check out Wedding and consider it for a place to live because I love it a lot. There are not a lot of tourists here. You have more and more expat families moving here, and it's very multicultural because we also have a lot of Turkish families and Arab families living here. So we have good restaurants and good supermarkets as well. So I think it's great.
So, but you're not originally from Berlin, are you?
Actually, I'm from upstate New York. I'm an American passport holder. I was born in Virginia as a military family, and I grew up in New York and upstate New York. Yeah.
I represent my Albany Great Danes over here because you're pretty close to you were pretty close to Albany, weren't you?
Yeah, so I grew up in Niskuna, which is a small town in Schenectady County. We are, I think, about 30,000, 40,000 people. And a lot of my friends went to Albany as well. So I'm sure we have contacts we don't know about it outside of the global mobility world. And that's really crazy.
So funny because I was talking to some of my college roommates last night on a group text, and one of them lives in Niskayuna, and he's like,
yeah,
is it? You know, yeah, Mike Gathan was his name, so I don't know if you know.
Yeah, no, I didn't know him, but
Niskayuna,
yeah, Niskayuna is a really nice town to grow up in. We have really good school districts. I'm still grateful to this day that I was able to go to Niskayuna High School, and mostly because they have really good language programs, and that's basically how I made my way to Germany. I studied Spanish in school and German, and when I was in the 12th grade, 2 of my German teachers took us to Germany on an exchange program for 2 weeks. And the first European city I ever saw was Berlin, Germany. And that's where I am now. And this is my second home, and I'm really proud of it.
Tell me about that journey. So you're upstate New York.
Yes.
You go to high school here in the States. And what brings you? What's that turning point in your life? What's that story like that gets you into global mobility and overseas in Germany and running a relocation company over in Germany?
Yeah, so I think my story starts that my father was in the military, and he traveled a lot within Europe when I was quite young, and I was super interested in Europe. And before we had the euro in Europe, obviously we had coins from different countries and stuff like that. So my father would bring home the coins and little trinkets from different European countries. My grandparents were very, very big travelers. So they saw all of the world, and I wanted to be like my father and my grandparents and traveling. I studied languages in school, and I thought it was really cool to learn German because Spanish and French is what everyone learns, and I think it's not so unique. And I think German was kind of the nerdy thing to do, maybe.
Yeah.
But I was totally into it. And long story short, I studied abroad in Germany. I became an au pair in Germany, so I worked as a nanny for 2 German families. And then when I went back to the US and finished my bachelor's degree, I moved to Germany for an internship the summer after my bachelor's degree, and I started my master's degree shortly after that. So I did my master's degree in a university in Berlin. I studied intercultural conflict management, and I actually wrote my thesis on how expats acculturate into Berlin because Berlin is a huge expat community. When I started looking
let me stop you really quick because you made a comment there. Berlin is a huge expat community. what makes Berlin such a great landing spot for expats?
So I would say over the last 15 years, it has become a haven for software engineers and tech companies. There's also a lot of tourism and history here. So you have a lot of tourists coming. Berlin in general and Germany in general, we have very good social systems. So if you want to raise a family here, you have very good benefits. We have just some little things to get started. Everyone has health insurance. Of course, we do pay for it, but everyone, I mean, when someone's in an employment relationship, the employer pays half and the expat would pay half. We also have every family that has one child gets 204 euros per month from the government, paid every family. For 2 children, it's 204 2 times, and for 3 children, it's even more. So we have child benefits. We also have 1 year of paid maternity leave, which can be split up between mother and father. So the benefits are really strong and supporting families, and I think that's why expats come and often stay. But Berlin is also sometimes kind of a transient city. So people come here to do one project and they move on to the next one. So you have a little bit of both. I think I'm a lifer, but I've had to say goodbye to a lot of people over the years because they came here to study. They didn't have the German language skills, and you can only get so far without, if you're not in the IT or tech branch, you can only get so far without the language. So, yeah.
So you were telling me, so pick up where you left off with your story before I kind of interrupted you there. You were talking about, coming to Berlin, and go ahead.
So when I started applying, so everyone who studies in Germany and has a German degree gets 18 months job seeking permit to find a long-term position in Germany. I think you have similar programs in the US. I'm just not familiar with the paragraphs of the immigration things there. I only know the ones that I experienced here in Germany. And I actually didn't know about global mobility or supporting expats or anything. And I applied for a job with Fragomen. They do immigration. They're an immigration law firm, and they're worldwide. And so I applied for a job there as an immigration coordinator, and that was my door opener into the global mobility world. When I worked at Fragomen, we sometimes got emails from the relocation companies, and I was like, "What do you mean relocation? What are they doing? Why are they talking about moving boxes and home search?" And then I applied for a position with a relocation company called Sirva, which is also, I think, started in the States, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, Sirva is out of Chicago in the U.S.
Yeah.
One of the probably third largest relocation companies. Yep.
Yeah. So then I worked for Sirva for a while. I did both immigration coordination and coordinating of local consultants who do local relocation in the local cities. I would get authorizations from companies, and then I would, choose a consultant and ask if they wanted to do the work, and they would do the work for us. And now I'm that person, more or less. I'm the local consultant doing the work for relocation companies, global relocation companies, destination service providers, local companies and their employees, as well as private people. So that's been my how I evolved through the global mobility world, and that's how I got in. I started as an immigration coordinator.
Okay. So I want to take a moment here, and I want to pick up your story to learn about to learn about how you made the leap from immigration coordinator and relocation consultant to founding Expat Mgmt-Relocation Service. But I want to really quick give some shout outs here. I think some people are telling me that my mic is low, so I'm just going to shout into it. Are you feeling that? All right, here we go. And if it's too much, tell me it's too much, but I'm going to shout a little bit here. All right. So Alan King says, "Hi, Janet." Alan King's watching in Germany. Do you know Alan over there? I think he's in Germany.
Yes, actually, we've been chatting, and I think eventually he will probably come on to my podcast so we can talk about he does expat solutions for automobiles. So
yeah.
That's something that can be interesting, especially for people on assignments that come to Germany, I think.
Yeah, and I want to talk about your podcast too. So I want to talk about founding Expat Mgmt, and I want to talk about your podcast as well because it sounds pretty awesome.
Sure. So
let me before we do that though, I want to go ahead and I want to go ahead and go through the comments here. Okay.
yeah, definitely.
Simon Johns, hi Janet and Ben from the UK. Hey Simon Johns. Miriam, hi Ben and Victoria. I'm tuning in from Ghana. Thrilled to finally catch you live.
Cool.
This is one of the first from the African continent, so I'm very excited about that.
Hey, Miriam.
Christy Saluga, I'm looking forward to reading the book. Love the idea of the book club. Yep, pick it up. Lead like an ally. Alan King, hi everyone. Tuning in from Dusseldorf, Germany. Tim Quirk, hello Victoria from and Ben from Western New York. Jürgen Tellman, oh, I love when they start speaking other languages because they know that I don't speak other languages. But I'm going to try anyway, okay?
Let's do it.
Jürgen Tellman says, hello, skon, grüß aus Mexico City.
Okay, he sent you greetings from Mexico, and I don't know why he wrote in German. He's a German, though, probably.
He's a German, I think. Yeah, he did it to mess with me. Okay. Mark Moose, hi from Switzerland. MW Relo, hey Mark, good friend of the program. Sandra Clary, hi all. Hey Sandra. Hey. D Walker, hi everyone. Mark Moose, Ben, your sound is low. Thank you, Mark. How does this sound, Mark? Is this better? Simon Johns, Ben, turn your volume up. Thank you, Simon. Hey, what if I do this? How does that sound? Does that sound any better or no? Same? Victoria, same?
For me, I hear you clearly, but maybe I'm just louder than you.
Okay. Miriam says, I love being in Berlin, but it was also one of the toughest places to live as an expat spouse, even though I'm married to a German. The pressure to not just integrate, but to assimilate was what I found the toughest, that and German bureaucracy.
Yeah, I can. I feel that in my soul for sure. I've talked about this on my podcast as well with a lot of other local relocation service providers. And I would consider myself fairly integrated because I have a business. I speak German. I live with a German. I speak German as my home language every day. So I've had a good experience, but I don't have so many German friends. And I wrote something down today, which I'm going to share with you, 2 things. These are kind of cultural differences I would like to share with the audience. Is I would say as an American, especially when I moved to Germany, I would always, as an American, to get from point A to point B, I would always try to do it the quickest way possible. That was me as an American, I would say. And Germans usually try to get from point A to point B the most efficient way. And
those are different? How?
They're different because sometimes the most efficient way takes a little bit more of a longer path, I would say. And that's those are some cultural clashes I had, especially when I was working as an au pair for a German family. When I would wash the dishes for them, I would wash the dishes very quickly and move on to the next one. She was always looking like, oh, can I do this another way to make it better? And how can I make this work? And it's funny because German efficiency and German bureaucracy are also 2 totally different things. They don't go hand in hand. But I would say that's one cultural difference. And another one I learned, I one time did like a cultural training. And we talked about peaches, Americans, versus coconuts. This is going to sound really crazy.
I love it. Tell me about it.
So they said that Americans are like peaches because, for example, if you go into a bar and you meet another American, like they're all warm and fuzzy on the outside and you can bite right in and they're really sweet and nice to you and they're your friend. You know, American friends are friends, at least for Germans. And when you have a German person that you meet, it's more like a coconut. You really need to work really hard to get inside of that coconut to make a friendship with a German person. And once you get deep inside, you have the warm milk, the warm part of the friendship.
The sweet is on the inside, not the
outside. And trying to actually get to know them. Whereas if you go back to the peach, you don't really get to know an American until you've really been friends with them for a very long time and they actually open up to you. So I would say they're friends with you on the surface, but getting the harder, the deep connection, it comes later. Whereas with Germans, you have to work at the deep connection from the beginning, and then later you get the laughing and the joking and and that was an analogy I learned in a cultural training once, and I think it's not a perfect analogy, but I think it makes a lot of sense. And that's why it is very hard for expats to make friends with Germans, because the way that we go about making friends, the process is a little bit different. So I can relate to that comment from Miriam, definitely. Or Miriam.
I'm going to put this on the poll here, okay? Because I think this is fun. We had another poll question, and
Yeah.
frankly, it wasn't fun. So the poll question now is: so if Americans are peaches, this is going to be fun, and Germans are coconuts, which by the way are not native to the country of Germany, I don't believe. Then what fruit are you?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, thank you. It was inspired. Sometimes we come up with these things in advance. All right, so I want to know this. I want to know this right now. And I'm getting like messages. It's funny. I want to know right now the answer. If Americans are peaches, Germans are coconuts, what fruit are you? I want to know what you identify with. Nicole Barilli, who's an intercultural expert, peach versus coconuts. I always use German as a coconut. Yeah, so she's heard the same thing. That's great. And my experience has been the same. I've got friends who are German. I call them friends. I shouldn't even call them friends because I don't even feel like they're friends. I'm pretty much friends with everybody, and I swear I can't read these people to save my life. And we'll be friendly. We'll be not friendly. We'll be polite.
Yes.
But it's very like, oh, very nice. And I'm like, what? Are we getting anywhere with this relationship, or are we not? I don't understand. So I'm over here with the nail and the coconut, and I'm trying to bust it open. So we're getting some people coming in here. Tim Quirk says he is a chocolate chip cookie, and that's American sense of humor there. Farron McCown says, but the English friends I do have are friends for life. She says, I think that's true for much of Europe, actually.
Yes.
Had the same experience living in the UK, had very few English friends living there for over 6 years. That's too bad. Simon Johns says, Farrah McCown, that's so true. He doesn't say, Farrah, let's be friends. He says, yes, that's true, actually, Farrah. You don't have any friends, and I'm not going to be your friend. Wow, Simon. Okay. Just kidding. Again, the humor. Soledad Aguirre says, hola from your fan in Madrid.
Hola, ¿cómo están?
There you go. Some people say the shouting is working with the microphone. I don't know. So Nicole Barilli says, I'm a peach. I think she is. And by the way, join Nicole and I on Friday for Global Mobility Jeopardy here on this BAT channel.
Yes, I'm going to have to join this week. I didn't catch the episode last week, but I'm going to join this week.
We have so much fun, Victoria. We have so much fun, and I could really use your help in bringing some of the European questions in as well.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
That would be fun.
That would be awesome. Francine Drusty says, I like the taste of coconuts, but I'm more of a warm and fuzzy peach. Yeah, I think so. And then Jamie Masler, grapefruit, a little bit sweet and a little bit sour, but very good for you.
That's a good one. That's definitely a good one.
You're so funny. This is great. I love this question so much. Love that analogy. I have so many German friends, and they're the nicest folks. People are loving it.
Yeah, so one thing I have to add to that is as soon as you make a German friend and you've made the effort and you took the time to make a German friend, they're a friend for life, and they're very good friends. So any Germans who might have felt a little offended by that comment, it's not about whether or not you're a good friend. Everybody knows that you're a good friend. It's just harder to make the connection. And it definitely means that when you live in a city like Berlin and you're an expat, probably most of your friends are other expats, and that's normal.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't, no offense to the Germans, it just means we have to smash you on the ground and spill a lot of milk just to get what's inside. But that's okay. It's no judgment at all.
Exactly.
Jamie checking in. Cheers from Mississippi, from sunny Mississippi. We always have to have the Mississippi weather report. If you watch the show, you know. Francine Drusty says hello as well, checking in from St. Louis. More passion is fine. I guess when I was screaming and they were digging the passion there. Jasmine Garcia, yes, we hear Victoria perfectly, but not you. Thanks, Jasmine. I don't hear you either. Host microphone's a bit low, but he loves the podcast. Thank you so much. Okay, so I stopped you there, and we went off on this tangent. Oh, Mark Moose, Scottish or pure sugar?
Oh,
That's leave what's under the kilt, Mark. Okay. Lynn Griffith says, "I'm a pineapple," which is a little prickly. That's funny.
oh, that's a good one too.
This is okay. Last one. Miriam says, "I am definitely a pomegranate. Lots of rich rubies once you get to the inside."
Oh, that's a good one. I like
Such
pomegranate.
a wonderful question. So I got you off track again.
Mhm.
Do you remember where you work? We were talking about in Germany. We're talking about also. Here's what I really want to know. I want to know because I have two things I really want to know. I want to know how you founded your company,
Mhm.
and I also want to hear about your podcast. So first, with how you founded your company.
Yeah, so
Go for that
actually,
first.
I after working for Sierra for about 1.5 years, I tried to move into a project management role in another sector, and it just didn't work. I thought that I didn't like the corporate side of relocation, and so I needed to get out of it. But then I realized there are other ways to do it and not be in the in the corporate part of it. If you are a local consultant and you're dealing with the expats directly, and I think that's the part that I missed about when I worked in an office is like you're managing files all the time and you're helping people, but you don't get to meet them, you don't get to talk to them, you don't get to see them. And that was the main reason why I started my business, is because I wanted to help people like myself when they arrive to Germany to get the things done. And I wanted to be there to support them with an expat experience. A lot of local consultants in Germany are Germans, and they do a really good job too, because a lot of them have an expat background. But I always think that's a little bit of my selling point to the expats, and I make a faster connection to them for sure, because I can be like, we're in Germany, this is how it is, and you have to deal with it. But yeah, it's ridiculous. And I understand this pain because I went through it for the past 9 years. And I had 7 different residence permits. And I stood in line at the immigration office at 2:00 in the morning in December. And I did all of the things. And your situation is never going to be like that, because you have a relocator and you have a lot of resources and you are a highly skilled worker. I mean, I was a student when I was doing those things. So yeah, it's definitely good to make them a connection. And I think sometimes I'm able to give them a little bit of a reality check, like we're doing this for you, we're helping you, and it's not as hard as it could be. And so yeah, I think it's kind of a way to show them, yeah, it's difficult, but don't forget, I'm holding your hand, I'm here for you. So I sometimes say that I'm not only a relocation consultant, but also kind of like a personal assistant, sometimes kind of like a mother figure, an aunt figure to the newcomers, because we do have to help them with a lot of stressful situations. So yeah, that's how I started the business. I wanted to get back into relocation, and starting a business in Germany is not very difficult. And I was already eligible for my permanent residence status, so I didn't have any immigration issues, and I got my permanent residency shortly before I started my business. So it was fairly easy to get started.
So your ability to sympathize with other expats really gives you an advantage, you think?
Definitely. I can always tell them about my own experience. I can always tell them where I started, and I always tell them about my journey, and I always tell them, look, I've been there. I also had to live in apartments I didn't love. I also had to, there were things that were hard to swallow for me. There were things that are hard to get used to. But once you get through all of that, once you invested, once you paid all the taxes, once you do all the things, I can tell you in my situation, Ben, I'm not afraid or embarrassed to say it. From my job that I worked in as a project management role, I actually got fired from the position. But because I got fired from that position, the German government paid me to start my business. They paid me. It's a startup grant. It's called Gründungszuschuss in German. And because I worked in Germany for years and paid taxes, it's basically a program to help people who are unemployed to get off of unemployment by encouraging them to start their business. So they basically pay you an unemployment benefit for 6 months while you start your business. And as someone who had only worked, for 2 or 3 years in entry-level positions, I didn't have a lot of resources to start a business, and that was my way to do it. And so I tried to tell my clients things like that, like, in the beginning, it doesn't make a lot of sense why your net salary is so low, why you're paying so much health insurance and taxes and all these things you don't understand. But 3 years from now, when your wife has a baby, she can stay home with the baby for for an entire year and be paid for that. Or you can stay home for half of the year and be paid 60% of your salary for that. And so I try to speak in terms that they can see in the future, even though right now it doesn't make a lot of sense.
What is the hardest thing for people to get used to when they come to Germany? I mean, it sounds like you're doing a lot of relating to your transferees, and you mentioned a few hot topics, and whether it be the immigration aspect of it
Yeah.
or the taxes. I mean, what are some of those big acclamation points that you have to coach people through? That maybe people out there that manage global mobility programs, or there's service providers that bring people to Germany. What are things that they should also be aware of that people are, expats are going to struggle with when they get to Germany?
Yeah. I'm sure it's the same in your sector of global mobility, but for me, the most important thing for all expats that are coming to start a new job in Germany is that we need to set the expectations from the first day of their recruitment process. You need to set the expectations about what it's going to be like to move, what the challenges are going to be, and how much money it's going to cost for them to move. And sometimes I have a feeling, I'm not a recruiter, I don't know how recruiters work, but sometimes I have the feeling that a lot of what is being shared with the expats is not exactly reality. So the thing is, if a recruiter is working with an expat and they're telling them, yeah, you can move to Berlin, it's very affordable. Yes, it's affordable compared to Paris. It's affordable compared to London. It's affordable compared to a lot of to New York, San Francisco.
Singapore. Right.
It's not affordable compared to it's not affordable compared to what it used to be. And the pricing for housing has increased to the point that it's ridiculous, and people, or the government actually, I think I told you this and we wanted to talk about it as well. The government actually put a rental cap.
Let's talk about that. Rental caps. Yeah, go into that. Tell us, what does that even mean?
It's even hard for me to understand, but basically the government put a rental cap for the next 5 years for contracts that have started from, I think, 2000 until a certain date in 2019 until further notice, more or less. And that means that the landlords have to follow something which is called the Mietspiegel. And the Mietspiegel basically tells you the average amount you can rent per square meter in a certain district. And this basically means that landlords have to follow this, or they can be sued and they can get they can end up having to pay back the tenant for renting at an illegal price. And this rent cap began, I think, in the last days of February. But as soon as this rent cap was put into place, we started seeing landlords and property management companies putting advertisements in the internet, which basically said, if this law is later considered unconstitutional, you will have to pay back for all of the months that your rent was decreased. And this is super confusing and really.
Wow, because and then how do you even know what that liability is going to look like? Like if they advertise it for, let's say 2,000 euro, because let's say it's capped at 2,000 euro.
Yeah.
And then the law is repealed a year later. Can they come back with? I mean, can it be an arbitrary number of their choosing that says, actually the market rate for this was 3,000 euro, or is 4,000, or is 5,000, or is 10,000? I mean, how would you even begin to assign a value to that, and what's the limit to a tenant's liability on that?
So what we're seeing is they're showing in the advertisement the lower rate, but in the advertisement it also says this is the rate what you should actually be paying, and that's the rate that you would have to pay back. So I don't think it's an arbitrary number, but it's still sometimes a difference of 300, 400, 500 euros, which we have to tell our expats, even though you're not spending this on your rent now, in October, November, December of 2020, or maybe in 2021, you might still have to pay this back. Wow. So it's really strange, and we're hoping that it's not ruled unconstitutional.
So
and that
how does that uncertainty or that wrinkle affect expat housing?
And basically, we have to explain it to them, and they have to live with it, and they need to put the savings on the side. There's no way around it right now. And this is not a Germany-specific thing yet. I think Berlin is the only city in Germany that has this new rental cap. I haven't heard about it in other German cities. If anyone who's listening knows, then please, put your input. But yeah, it was shocking when I first started seeing these advertisements, because it's hard to tell an expat how to budget their income if you don't know what amount rent you're paying. And that's a big part of my job, is telling my clients, you pay this much for rent every month, you pay this much for electricity, you pay this much for internet, etc., etc.
Yarrow asks, Victoria, do you think the rental cap will stay?
Well, they first made the rental cap for a 5-year period, and I hope it stays for those 5 years. I don't know what's going to happen in the courts. I did read a little bit about it when it first started, and it seems like there are good arguments on both sides. And what I noticed as well, there are two things going on right now. It's obviously this rental cap and the COVID situation. So people are not moving in and out of apartments at the moment. I think they're kind of staying put. There's a lot less apartments available on the market right now, but also because of the rental cap, because landlords have decided, I'm going to keep my apartment empty from now until they make the decision, because if I start a contract after the decision, I can just increase the rent again. So they're hoping, I don't know how they think, but a lot of them are entrepreneurs or business people, or the real estate gurus, so they know the game they're playing.
We're getting some people here commenting here. Only Berlin. So is this a Berlin law, or is this a Germany-wide law?
So far, this is the state. So Berlin is a city-state, so it's the state of Berlin. The state of Berlin.
Okay. Is Berlin the only city in Germany that has experienced these kinds of rapid increases in rents, or is this also in Munich or?
Yeah, Munich and I think other southern states are much more expensive than Berlin. But I assume that the salaries there are also a little bit higher, because Berlin is kind of like poor but sexy, we say.
My favorite.
So yeah, I think they probably have talked about it in their governments in their states, but I haven't heard any news that they've put in these kind of rental caps like in Berlin.
We got some question here from. Let's see here. We got a question here from Miriam. A lot of Germans don't understand the difference between an expat, someone who's there on temporary time, limited contract, versus an immigrant, like many of the Turkish population who have migrated to settle for the long term.
Mm-hmm.
They'll start berating you when you're in a German supermarket and can't remember what breadcrumbs are called in German. How do you help educate the expats on how to deal with the inherent prejudice? Do you help newly arrived expats do a Deutsch integrations course?
Mm-hmm. So that was a lot of questions. I have to say one thing is that some of it is obviously prejudiced, or people being prejudiced or discriminatory towards certain people because of the way they look or that they don't speak the language. This is for sure. I can't put that down because I've seen it. I've experienced it before with people. However, Berlin is a very special part of Germany. We even have, I also wrote this down in my notes before preparing for the talk today, the dialect that they speak in Berlin, Berlinerisch, they have a word for it in German, which is Berliner Schnauze. And this literally translates to the snout of Berlin, like the dog's snout. Yeah. And this is how people speak to each other in Berlin. They talk to you like, for example, I'll give you an example. One time I went to the supermarket, and in Germany you have to bag your own groceries. So I couldn't find a little spot to bag my own groceries, so I just took my backpack and put it on top of a box. And then a lady came around the corner and she's like, no, there's bread in the box. Next time you do it over there. And that sounds really offensive and it's really annoying. But in her mind, she was helping me. She was helping me to show me how to do the right thing. And this is like a kind of Berliner Schnauze thing, that people are telling you that you should know how to speak German because you live in Germany. Is it nice? No. Can someone who just arrived in Germany 2 days ago speak German? Probably not. But sometimes I think it's not even being prejudiced. I think they're just being Berlin, and it's sometimes shitty, but that's the way it is.
Yeah. Well, no, and I mean, let's be honest. I mean, we encourage, and here I am from a U.S. perspective. We think of ourselves as a very inclusive nation, but to be honest, we struggle with a lot of the same things. Where if
Yeah.
someone doesn't speak, English, American English,
Mhm.
we tell them that this is, the United States, and they should speak English. And it's like,
Yeah.
people say that, people believe that,
Yeah.
and so I think it happens anywhere, and I think it's part of human nature to not understand the other, and to fear the other, because you don't understand it, and not empathize with their journey because you haven't walked it. You haven't migrated. If someone hasn't migrated and they grew up here their whole life, how could they ever possibly fathom somebody who doesn't speak the language? Drop
Exactly.
that person in Berlin, and I'm sure they're going to be on the other side of that conversation really quickly, right?
Definitely.
Let's see here. Mark Moose says this rental cap controversy must be great to try to meet corporate policy. I think he's being sarcastic there. Um, you know,
Yeah.
how do you know? Could you respond to that?
Yeah, that's a really hard one. So actually, in the last, I would say, year or so, I haven't really helped so many people coming on assignments. It's been like, I would say 95% local hires. So I haven't had to deal with that situation yet, but I have to also say a lot of the assignments that I did do, it was the kind of situation where the expat got a housing allowance and anything he didn't spend went in his pocket. So my expats are always trying to find the cheapest apartment possible so they can put more money in their pocket.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I understand where he's coming from. That would be a nightmare if there was a certain policy and the company, sometimes the relocation companies pay it for the employers, and that could be a huge bureaucratic and bookkeeping nightmare. And that sounds horrible.
Elena Reckdahl checking in says, "Hi, Ben and Victoria. Nice to see you."
Hi, Lena.
Jamie actually brings up a good point. So Jamie works in furnished apartments around the world, and he says the caps don't seem to be affecting costs of serviced apartments unless that portion hasn't gone into effect yet. Your
Mhm.
thoughts on that, Victoria?
So, guys, I have to say I'm not quite an expert on this yet because it just came into play at the end of February. It was my understanding that when it comes to actual furnished apartments, privately owned furnished apartments, that it would also affect the costs or the amount of rent they could charge there as well. I think that a lot of people who own the service apartments and the agencies who are offering them, they're just offering them for like not the most reduced rate, because at the end of the day, who's renting from them? Expats. Do expats know about the rental cap? Not really. Could a German attorney at some point come around the corner and try to send them, some documents saying that they're breaking the law and they would like to sue them or whatever? I think yes, but like I'm not an attorney and I don't know
Well,
any.
Jamie, yeah,
Go
the
ahead.
fact that these apartments are furnished the fact that these apartments are furnished, Jamie, might also mean that they don't necessarily fall under, you know, the law,
Mhm.
or since it's a reseller type of an agreement. um, I mean, if there's a rent cap and that's artificially lowering the cost of the apartment, and Jamie's service provider rents it for that artificially low price, they might turn around and sell it to Jamie for what Jamie used to pay for that apartment and just keep the margin, I would think.
Yeah.
And if it's not publicly advertised, like that transaction between Jamie and a service provider who's operating that apartment in Germany, how would anybody know? It's
Right.
not like it appears in the newspaper. So Jamie, you might go back to him and say, "Hey, listen, I know about the rent caps in Berlin. I know you're trying to pull a Berlin Schnauzer on me, okay? And you better just watch out because I've been watching Love and Relo, and I didn't just fall off the turnip truck, to use an American
I'm
colloquialism.
informed.
Yeah, I am informed, okay? And then you can always quote Victoria as well, and she'll get in the middle of it, I'm sure, and sort it out for you.
Definitely.
Let's see here. Yaroslava says, "Yes, I was just about to say apartments are still listed for market prices, not for cap price, right? From what I've
I think
seen."
she's saying from what she's seen. Some of them, that's one thing about moving to Berlin or moving to Germany. it always depends on the bank you talk to. It always depends on the agency you talk to. It always depends on the landlord that you talk to. So I have seen some agencies who have lowered the price. They have shown the capped price. But then, like I said, if you scroll down to the bottom of the advertisement, it will say something like, because of this paragraph of the law and the Mietendecke, that's what it's called, the rent cap, your actual rent will be lower than actually the rent that we wanted to charge you. So they're just informing you from the get-go. And I've also seen the same written inside of contracts already in the past few months. Of course, I can't give a very good overview because from February until now, I think I have secured 0 long-term apartments for anyone because of the COVID crisis. So I would definitely, maybe we come on in the future and we talk about it again once I know a little bit more.
So you've been in Berlin and you've been running this relocation services company,
Yes.
Mgmt. And can you tell me about some of the expats you've come across? Maybe one of the funniest things that might have happened to you in dealing with some of these expats, because I'm sure we're all, they're an emotional bunch, right?
So the expats are always funny. They're always saying and doing funny things, but I cannot make fun of them because I still make mistakes and say and do funny things speaking German every day. I actually think that the funniest thing that has happened to me during working hours, like at a regular appointment, was not something that one of my expats did, but it was someone who was trying to sublet her apartment. She was American. And when the way how apartment viewings work is you show up for the viewing when they ask you to show up, and I showed up with my client, and we opened the door, and not the ex, she was also an expat, but the person who wanted to sublet her apartment, she was wearing like a full dress and makeup and a lot of like lipstick and stuff, and I was like, oh, that's like really nice that she dressed up for us. But then she continued to go through her apartment and the apartment was seriously the size of my kitchen. It was a studio in a very, we have studios inside of one of the shopping centers here in Berlin that were built not so long ago.
Right.
And she spent like an hour and a half showing me this shoebox or us, this shoe, a small apartment.
Oh, the apartment, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was like a literal shoebox for a second. I was like, wow, that is bizarre. So she's showing you the studio for an hour and a half. Yeah.
And she was a really good sell, like she was doing a great job. But then she got to the appliances and she told us some women get married and have a bridal shower and they get gifts and appliances. And she was like, I bought these appliances for myself and I married the appliances. And I was like, okay, lady, like.
So the appliances, did she have a special rider in the lease around the appliances that they must be cared for in the way they've been accustomed?
I think she was trying to tell us how expensive the nice they were so she could try to sell them to my clients, because that's a special thing about Germany, which is going to be interesting for people who don't live in Germany, is that I would say around 50% of the available apartments on the market have no kitchen built inside of them. So
50% of apartments on the market have no kitchen built inside of them.
Exactly.
So the
room, the kitchen itself is there, the room, but it's empty. And some agents will, you have to put in your own cabinets, your own everything. Yeah, everything.
Some put in like permanent fixture cabinets and then like take them like these like here and then take them right off the wall, like.
People take
like put in like
apartment
freestanding stuff.
Like people will move into an apartment, build the kitchen, and when they move out, they will remove the cabinets and bring them.
I'm in the moving industry and I'm seeing dollar signs or euro, and I still don't think this is a good idea.
I always wonder why. I've never done it, but I always wonder like how does the kitchen cabinets from kitchen A fit in kitchen B, because it's a different.
I take these off the wall and I go in and it doesn't have a short wall here, it has a long wall. I got this janky L curve coming out here out of nowhere.
It's very German.
How does that make any sense? I can't think of a thing that's more tailored to a home and the way it's built than the cabinetry that is affixed to the actual wall dimensions. I cannot understand this. So I had a similar situation. We went into a woman's home. She was also an expat, not from Germany. I think she might have been from India. We go into her home. She's renting. She wants a quote to move the island of the apartment, which has granite countertop. Here's the kicker. She didn't even own it. She wanted us to steal the island for her and move it. So many things are wrong with this idea. But hey, what do? Customer's always right. You know?
You guys also must see really funny things when you have to make your quotes for a move, right?
Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Oh, it's ridiculous. But yeah, some of the expectations people have are just insane. But,
oh yeah.
But yeah, wow, that's funny. Jamie Master has a question here. He says, "Okay, the big question. Everyone wants to know: do you think there will be an Oktoberfest?"
No, it's the last thing I read, it was canceled. So I think that's a big no.
You make me hungry. You got no kitchen. You make me hungry. You tell me there's no Oktoberfest. You make me thirsty. I'm living in a very scarce mindset right now. Oh my gosh.
I actually went to Oktoberfest last year for the first time after living in Germany for 9 years.
Was it amazing, or was it like everything they tell you it is? Or
it was really amazing, and I'm glad I did it once, but I wouldn't do it again because it's very touristic and it's very expensive. But was the experience nice and fun? And I'm glad I did it. Yes, and I would recommend other people to do it at least once, definitely.
Okay. Jasmine says yes, and it's hell and expensive when you move out. You have to remove it only in Germany, which is why also the Germans have the German Shrunk, which is the massive freestanding.
The shrunk, the wardrobe.
The Shrunk, yes. The wardrobe, but they're like extremely intricate, and actually a lot of U.S. military own them because they go over to Germany, Ramstein or something like that. They get it. They bring it around, and then they want us to move it all over the place. And we're looking at it like, we don't know what this is. So we're like, third party, please. Somebody come in here and disassemble this thing. We'll move the pieces.
Right.
But that explains why, if the cabinetry and things like that are not customarily included with the home, that makes a lot of sense. Sylvia Ehrlich says that's why IKEA cabinets are so popular. Alan King says, or light fixtures.
Also, there are no light fixtures when you move into an apartment.
Oh my gosh, there's no light fixtures.
So my apartment has, in the kitchen, there's a light installed, and there's some spotlights in the bathroom, but everything else in the hallway. But in the bedroom and living room, we had to install our own lighting fixtures. And that's very, very that's normal. We have to tell our clients this. I love your facial.
Okay. So this leads me to the next question. Eric Paul says, "Okay, let's get serious, Ben." Everybody wants to get serious all of a sudden. Let's get serious, Ben. They're done with the jokes and the shenanigans. After all these information, would you consider moving to Berlin? Eric, that's a great question. It's something I've been asking myself for the last 53 minutes. The answer is, I don't think so. I think I would love to visit. I think I would love to go to Oktoberfest next year, 2021, right?
Yeah.
But this sounds like a lot. Like, listen, I bought my first house 2 years ago. It's a bigger home, nice home, big lawn, landscape, etc. This thing is kicking my butt.
Yeah.
I had to actually put in the light fixtures and build the cabinetry. I mean, this is a built-in barrister's type of thing over here, which is really nice, little much, but it's nice. I don't know what I would do with myself. I don't think I'm man enough to live in Berlin.
Yeah, it's a lot of moving to Berlin in Germany has there are a lot of things you need to consider before you do it. I mean, financially, just moving into the apartment, you need to pay a deposit, which is 3 times the cold rent, which is always over, a couple of €1,000. You need to sometimes build the kitchen, you need to furnish the apartment, and I see a lot of local startups providing. Yasmin wrote about the floors. That's also true. In some apartments, you also have to install your own flooring. That's actually
I dropped 10 grand on my floors, and I got off cheap in my house. So I mean,
yeah.
People put in floors. Like, what does that mean to put in a floor? Like, you're putting out hardwood, you're rolling out the linoleum. Like, what do you mean carpeting? What are we talking about?
I guess you can choose, but I think most people put in linoleum because it's affordable.
So you're telling me if I have to put in linoleum, That means the last guy pulled up the linoleum?
I don't know what he did with it.
What the hell did he do with the linoleum?
I don't
Talk
know.
about something even more specific than cabinetry is the shape of my linoleum.
You're not
What
worried?
in God's green earth am I doing? I mean, I don't know. I don't understand this. This boggles my mind. We should have led. I feel like we buried the lead on this entire podcast. We should have led with the fact there's people in Germany every single day pulling up their linoleum, taking their cabinets off, and saying, "We're going next door." I don't understand this, okay? But this is my cultural blind spot right now.
I have to make one comment, not to scare any expats who are thinking to move to Germany away. When I look for apartments, I make filters on the search, so my clients only get apartments with kitchens and floors, but they still have to install their lights. So that's the extra special service you get when you work with a relocator.
And now I know I need to make sure I also have a roof. Does it come with a roof and a front door and all the windows are installed? I gotta ask all these questions now.
Oh, I have another thing to tell you. We don't have screens on our windows, so the bugs are coming in. They're not
just like, is it like a prohibition on screens? Is it like a code violation?
No, you
can
definitely install them yourselves, but they're never there. And I have old windows that I would be able to install it maybe but not like in the US where we have the screens that actually fit into standard size windows. I think it's not common here at all to have screens on the windows, which is weird in the summertime because we don't have air conditioning. So the windows have to be open and then there's bugs coming in. But yeah, we're living a rough life over here.
That's why we drink. Andrew Bruzy says a member of our team is moving to Germany in a couple of weeks and he was sad it was canceled. Oh, this is so funny. Oh, Miriam says, Victoria, I'll see if I can dig out a picture of our kitchen in our 62 square meter apartment in Charlottenburg.
Oh, that's such a nice neighborhood. Really good for families.
I'd like to see this kitchen. You can actually you can put that. You can actually add that in the comments. I think Miriam, you might be able to put a picture in there. Let's see. Alan King says, that's true. My wife is German. Even though I've lived in Germany 20 years this year, I'm still trying to perfect my German. People are getting their German corrected left and right. Alan King, just wait till your little one is older. My kids are 8 and 5, and they correct my German grammar all the time. Oh, the joys. Oh, this is great. Jasmine says, in my apartment, there was actually very cheap, ugly linoleum that we replaced for laminate, build our own kitchen and install our lights, and we don't have a balcony. This has been a lot of fun, though, but I want to also hear about Victoria. Tell me about your podcast. Let's go ahead and plug this podcast and let people know what it's all about.
So I don't know if you're going to be able to read this. It will probably show up backwards, right? No, I think it's good. So my podcast is called Relo Crazy because we're crazy about relocation. I have actually been interviewing other relocation providers in different countries just because one thing I do miss about working in the corporate relocation world and being a part of the big relocation companies is that I used to work with people. Nowadays, I work with people from all over the world because I work with expats all over the world, but I'm missing out on kind of reaching out and talking to other global mobility professionals, professional development, and get to know what they're doing and what they're doing that's new. So the whole point of the podcast is to talk to people in the global mobility world and get to know their stories and how they're providing relocation services. However, in the future, I also want to talk to people like expat coaches or expats moving abroad or expats who have been abroad for a long time, because I think that would open up as well for different audiences. So we already have interviews with someone providing services in Italy, China, Sweden, Dubai, Austria, and of course myself, Germany. And finally, this week I interviewed someone from Luxembourg, which is also a really cool country because they speak, so many different languages. It's a very expat. It's a small country and it's very expat oriented. So it was a really good interview as well. And I'll probably be uploading it tomorrow.
Great. And Eric just put the link down there if everybody wants to see it. It looks like it's expatmgmt.com/collaborations-projects.
Yes.
So go check it out.
We're also on Spotify and iTunes and Stitcher, I think. So those are the platforms that we're on.
You'll have to teach me a little bit about how to upload the audio, because that's my next step here. I want to rip this off and upload the audio because so many people.
Oh, yeah.
You have to
I
teach
use
me how to do
I
it.
use the tool from Apple. I think it's GarageBand, and it's pretty easy to convert the files.
Nice. Awesome. Victoria, this has been a lot of fun. I've learned a lot about Berlin.
Yes.
I definitely want to visit. We're going to TBD the living arrangements. But Victoria, if there's anything you want to leave us with here today, what would that be?
So first of all, I have to say a big thank you to you because I am really inspired by what you're doing. I think your goal with this show every day is to connect people in the global mobility world. And I think sometimes we get so caught up in our own projects. And everyone who's listening who works in global mobility knows that we have a very high-paced, action-filled day and work life. And it's really hard to take, not hard, but we don't take enough time to connect with other global mobility people, and I'm really amazed by what you're doing on LinkedIn. And you're not only including people from the global mobility world, but also people who are struggling right now with unemployment and providing them webinars and information. And thank you from the bottom of my heart for being that guy, because you're doing an amazing job. Everyone's seeing it, and we really appreciate it. And I'm really glad to connect with a fellow American and someone who studied basically in my hometown, more or less. Yeah, that's what I have to say. Yeah. What are you, the Danes?
Great Danes. Go
Great
Danes.
Danes. Woo! Yeah, so thank you so much for that. And yeah, if anyone is interested in interviewing for the Relo Crazy podcast, you can reach out to me. I'm very easy to find on LinkedIn because I'm posting very often, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you have already connected with me. Thanks for the invitations. And if you are a company or an expat or a relocation company who's looking for a provider in Germany or in Berlin, and I'm also working on a new project. We don't have a name for the project yet, but I'm going to be working with 2 other relocation service providers to create a bigger network. So yeah, we're definitely going to have capacity to take on some bigger projects. And so look out for more information from my side over the next few weeks and months while we're getting back into normal life and routine. And thank you for joining the show today.
Hey, give Victoria a big hand there. So hit those applause buttons over there. Let her know how much you love her and appreciate her coming out, and hit the hearts and everything, and make that happen. Thank you so much for everybody that chimed in and asked all these great questions and shared their story and their perspective as well. It's kind of fun when we get to kind of like all talk, you know.
Yeah.
Victoria, this was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Tomorrow we have Jack Jampel from Stryker Corporation, who manages their mobility program. He's going to talk about perfecting the global mobility and employee experience. Also, we have Global Mobility Jeopardy. For those of you who are in the States, it was brought to my attention that Europeans don't know what the hell I'm talking about when I talk about Jeopardy, but it's basically a trivia show. So chime in, tune in anyway. That's going to be a lot of fun. That's at 5 o'clock Eastern time on Friday. So that'll be a lot of fun. You can play along at home as well. And if you haven't already gotten the book, get the book Lead Like an Ally by Julie Kratz. And we will be discussing it in a couple of weeks. And it's an opportunity to make a difference in your workplace. We got a couple dozen people on Facebook still. Thank you so much. A couple more dozen people on LinkedIn. This has been fantastic. Victoria, thank you so much again.
Thank you very much, Ben. Thank you for the invitation, and thank you to Janet for her coordination.
Oh, Janet's the best. All right, take care, everybody. See you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.